Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we've got a United States women's national team versus New Zealand recap. Before we get into everything, a quick reminder to subscribe to us on YouTube and please give our videos a thumbs up, youtube.com/attacking third. You can get all your exclusive United States women's national team content, previews, recaps, interviews right here on A3. Let's talk about it. Lisa, we got a United States women's national team game to recap. How you doing this morning?
Thank God we got a U.S. women's national team game to talk about. I'm good. I'm a little sleepy this morning because of our late night last night. I'm not going to
Nice.
lie. I did
Yep.
the whole caffeination, drinking coffee at 5 and 6 o'clock, which really helped me. And then I could fall right asleep after the game. Almost fell asleep during that first half. I'm going to be really honest, but it's good that we get to talk about it and to break it all down because we talked about it in our preview. This is the turn of a page. This is the start of a fresh chapter for the United States women's national team, a World Cup year. They've got a lot of eyeballs on them, a lot of pressure on them, a lot of pressure on Vlatko Andonovski to go to this World Cup in July and dominate and win again. We're seeing the return of some players. It's an exciting time to be covering the United States women's national team. It's an exciting time to be a fan. We got to see the game on HBO Max for the first time,
Yeah.
start of a new decade there with how we're going to watch it with full pregame, full postgame. It was also on Telemundo. There's a lot of moving pieces last night. Me scrambling for my HBO login at the last minute, of course. That's what I was doing. I sent emergency text messages in my family group chat, the siren emoji, and I was like, "Help! What is the login? I can't get in." Of course, this was 9:32, so I wasn't missing any of the game. I wanted to get it geared up. I wanted to see what it was all about.
You mean
That
you're not you mean you're not logged in all the time? You're not watching House of Dragons or anything like that?
No, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't have time for that. And so it was hilarious. Thank you, my brother-in-law Ryan to the rescue. He sent me
Shout
his
out Brian.
login. Yeah, it was awesome. But
Yeah.
how about you? How you doing? Did you get some rest last night after you wrote up the game?
I try to, but you're so amped after these games.
I
It's hard
know.
to fall asleep. But I'm with you. I feel that 100%. Shout out to my partner, totally utilizing her login as well. That's what we do. Please don't come after us, HBO Max, for the share
You could hit us
login.
with a free login, HBO
Well,
Max. You
but
could hit us with a free login if we don't have to steal our
look,
family.
but I was intrigued, right? So ahead of these games, we even talked a little bit about it in our preview, about the rights deal and how that's going to look moving forward. It's a Turner rights deal, so there will be games on HBO Max at times. There will be matches on Turner Network channels, whether that's a TNT or USA, and they also inked a Spanish language broadcast rights deal, so able to watch that via Telemundo, or stream Telemundo on Peacock if you're into that streaming app as well. So I was curious. Well, I watch a lot of soccer on Telemundo or Univision. What I wanted to do, I wanted to watch this on HBO Max because I was just very curious of how this would look or what it would sound like. Was really intrigued by the pregame show. Shout out to Shannon Box. Thought
Yeah.
she did great. Alongside Demarcus Beasley, that was really really cool to see. So there were a lot of other different elements within this to get excited about as well going into this match. So let's get into it. Let's get into what we actually got to see from the team during this first game against New Zealand. It's going to be a 2-game series here. But we had said in our preview some of the things that we wanted to take a look at, or who we were, had some hopes to for in this game and get some extra minutes. The United States playing the first of these 2 friendlies in New Zealand out in Wellington at Sky Stadium. 12,508 fans in attendance to take a look at this game. Not too shabby on a weekday,
Breaking records.
right smack dab in the middle of an afternoon. I don't think that's too bad there. Breaking, like you said, breaking a record, largest crowd ever to catch the New Zealand women's national team on their home soil. But United States coming in here playing spoiler for the big crowd. Let's start with the starting 11. Lisa, we have to talk a little bit about who we ended up seeing get nabbed for the start in this first game. We saw Alyssa Nair in net, Crystal Dunn, Becky Sauerbrunn, Naomi Girma, Emily Fox to round out the defense in the back line. Middle third, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, Taylor Korniak. And in the front line, we saw Mallory Swanson, formerly Pugh, Alex Morgan, and Midge Purse. Typical 4-3-3 to start off this match. It's not something that they veered from over the last year or so, and doesn't seem like that's going to be the case necessarily, to at least to start out matches for the remainder of 2023. But when we're looking at this starting 11 drop, Lisa, what were some of your first reactions when you saw some of the names on this lineup?
I mean, first initial reaction was when we saw the names initially, they're in a list and they're not laid out in tactical formation. So my first thing was kind of placing these players in my mind in a formation, and we knew it was going to be a 4-3-3. There's no doubt about that. So it was just dependent upon where we were going to see the players. So Alyssa Nair, you and I both kind of dubbed her as the player we think would get the start. She's the number one goalkeeper right now for the United States. She deserves the start. She deserves some solidity in the back there. But between Dunn and Fox, to see them both out on the pitch, I think this was kind of the best thing I could have asked for, because you and I talked about Crystal Dunn and if she was going to get starts, how many minutes she was going to play. And she was on a little bit of minute restriction. But to have her playing on the left side, and U.S. head coach Vlatko Andonovski saying, we want to get her back to her peak performance. And that's playing on the left, not putting her out of position on the right back position, but putting her in the left. And I think Emily Fox on the right was a good decision to see that slide over, because I like both of them together playing on the pitch. And I think that Fox, it has brighter moments than someone like a Sofia Huerta, defensively 1v1, and also getting into the attack and creating those opportunities with players up in the attacking end of the field. So I really liked that. But I think the midfield is where we got confused with Horan, Lavelle, Korniak. What was going to line up there? Who was going to be playing with her? I was expecting Horan to play a little bit deeper. I was not expecting someone like a Korniak to play deeper. And then, of course, Swanson, Morgan, Purse up top. I like to see Purse get that start. I know that in my preview, I didn't think she was. I wasn't sure how much time she was get. I would have maybe preferred Rodman over that. But I think what we saw from Purse kind of proves that what she's been doing in training camp, what she's been doing in the offseason, that her and Vlatko Andonovski have had some conversations. And when she wasn't called in to the previous two camps, she got pissed off, and that it enhanced her to get a little bit better. But overall, I mean, nothing too crazy or too surprising about the front line or the back line or the goalkeepers at this point.
I don't know if I would look at this lineup and say, whoa, that's out of this world, right? I think my initial reaction to seeing this 11 drop was immediately noting that Korniak was getting a start, and not seeing Sullivan named to this roster. It immediately clicked, and I was like, well, I guess we're going to see Korniak in this 11, and we're going to see her in that middle third. And I think my initial reaction to it was really just sort of like, well, I guess placing Korniak at defensive mid is a thing you can try. And this is the game to do it, right? We also chatted about that during our preview, and even in the reaction to the roster dropping for this January camp, that maybe these really early games in New Zealand, right, not in an official like FIFA international window, is perhaps that actual true last opportunity to quote unquote try some stuff, right? And this was something that intrigued me immediately in watching it. I was like, well, we thought that we were going to see that typical middle three with a Haran, with a Sullivan, with a Lavelle. We eventually did see it, but not.
We talked about it. We were like, hey, it's going to be those three.
We thought it was going to be, a little bit more of a predictable lineup. And while I don't want to say that, like, putting, making the decision, the coaching staff's decision to slot Korniak for me isn't some sort of like groundbreaking, earth-shattering kind of type of idea, that this whole concept of like, who's our tallest player? Let's throw him in that defensive mid slot, see what happens, is not this sort of iconic move for me anyway. These are I feel statements, right? So but it did pique my curiosity in terms of how that was going to work and what we were going to see, especially in light of the other two players who were going to be within that middle third as well. Like how was Lindsay Horan going to look? Was Rose Lavelle going to, still be that playmaker? And it's the first game of the year. It's the first game of the year. Like, how much time are these players gonna need to get acclimated within this actual game setting to really look like sort of a lethal unit? And I think we're just jumping into this first half now, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break it down half by half and talking about maybe what we saw or lack of what we saw in this first half, Lisa.
I think when you're looking at specifically that midfield and Taylor Korniak playing that defensive 6 role, it's not where we're used to seeing her. She's much more comfortable playing higher up the field. That's where she's played throughout the NWSL. In college, she played a forward, right? So she was much, much higher up the pitch. With San Diego Wave under Casey Stoney, she plays higher in the midfield as well as more of a 10, a linker, someone that can play those slotted passes through to the front line. And historically with Vlahovic, that's where we've seen her as well. Now, I think it was very interesting that Korniak gets her very first senior national team start, and she's essentially out of position. And clearly this was a conversation between Korniak and Vlahovic about what kind of role she can play for this team, where they need her. And when you're a player in this type of situation, you say, hey, where do you need me, coach? I'm willing to go and I'm willing to try anything. And I don't think it's a bad idea putting Korniak deeper in the midfield and playing that defensive role. She's got the skill. She's got the ability to pop into those pockets and be that connector with really good touches on the ball. She also understands the ability to play quick in that role because you're going to have opposition attacking midfielders closing in on you incredibly quickly, plus the front line dropping back of your opposition to make the space around you even tighter. But you could also tell it was incredibly new for a player like Korniak because the holes that she was popping into were perhaps holes that were already there, and she wasn't really creating a lot of other space for her. I know that on Twitter and the heat maps were out there of players like Lindsay Horan, Andy Sullivan, and there was one for Taylor Korniak as well that I saw, and her touches were mainly in the wide areas of the pitch, centrally, all centrally for the most part, in around halfway, but really stretched out wide. And that's a really tricky thing to do as a 6, to kind of find the central location, because that's where you're utilized more. And when you stay closer to the center circle and you can distribute the ball, get it from one side and then distribute it out to the other. And that's what we didn't see Korniak do as much. She played like a 10, just deeper back into the field, checking into the sidelines, being a little give and go player instead of being able to turn, keeping her back upfield and receive from the left and distribute out to the right. That's where she was like struggling.
And you have to wonder, you have to ask, like, was that her assignment? Was that the task that she was given by the coaching staff? Does the map look that way? Because that was the instruction that was given. I'm with you in terms that it was like maybe like half of a surprise to see her there, but maybe not fully surprised. I think maybe it was a surprise for me just because we haven't seen Taylor Korniak in a lower position in quite some time. Look, she got drafted into this league with Orlando Pride. Believe memory serves me correct. Mark Skinner had tried to utilize her in a lower position as well. It was not super successful. Yeah. And you could see as the opportunities that she got to play higher, thrived a bit more. And you could see as she's gone to San Diego Wave under Casey Stoney and how she's been utilized there, has been thriving in a higher position for that team as well. And sometimes when you get to this national team level and you have so much talent at all these different positions, it's perhaps maybe a challenge to try to see where you could slot them in and unlock something unique or special for an asset for the team. It was game 1 for USWNT with Korniak in a 6. I think you got to take that with a grain of salt. It was also the first game of the year, so there was disjointedness in general on the pitch. I think in this first half. It was
One more
interesting,
thing
Jordan.
about the midfield I wanna say, I think that the surprise, not surprise, whatever you wanna call it, of Korniak starting defensively in the 6, it tells us one thing, that defensive 6 role is not locked down by anyone, by Andy Sullivan, by Sam Coffey, by anyone, by Christy
Yeah.
Mewis, we saw her play there, that there are still some question marks that Black Wianovsky is trying to figure out, and we're seeing that unfold, and we saw it unfold throughout the first half with this US team.
I know there have been moments where we've seen Lindsey Horan asked to play lower, and are you of a similar opinion that you lose something when they're utilizing her within that deeper role?
I am, especially when we saw her previously play that 6 role, we lost something in the attacking end. Now, I don't think that Haran is maybe as mobile as she has been in years past, but I still think that Lindsey Horan is much better utilized higher up the field, and being like that attacking midfielder that can hold the space, especially playing alongside Rose Lavelle, that's going to go and expose you in the midfield. Yeah, I mean, Haran's better higher up the field. And I think, I mean, I know we're talking about the first half in the US, but I think Andy Sullivan coming in showed a different side to that midfield than we saw with Korniak in that defensive midfield role.
Well, I think the first half in general, it really just sort of felt like it took the team, a while to get going. There were just like these intermittent spurts at times of what you could see that they were trying to do. It was great to see Midge Purse, back in that front line. I thought of the 11 in that first half, that Rose Lavelle was doing what she's known for doing, and when it came to that front line, you could see Midge Purse at times trying to just do it
Yeah.
herself.
Yes.
Basically, it was watching this game from the jump over the ball. You see the team try to break out really, really early, right? And that's not something I think that's uncommon for this United States women's national team. We see really, really early Emily Fox get involved on the ball down end line. You're saying, okay, all right, first game, let's,
Go
the team's gonna
Foxy.
go out, go, gonna have some fun. But then it just, after that very, very early first quick look kind of generated by Fox, it takes what, 18 minutes
Yeah.
for us to see perhaps a quality look. Again, I'm talking about doing it yourself kind of energy, because that's what we saw out of maybe some of these individual performances in this first half, because we have a moment with Rose Lavelle trying to generate, creating a little bit of space, getting a shot off, and it just takes this little trickle and doesn't really have a lot of power behind it. You have right around the 30-ish minute, again, Midge Purse try to do it herself, gets defenders to collapse on her. This ball bounces to Lindsey Horan in wide open space. We're talking like just within like the 6-yard box area.
Yep.
Finds herself 1v1 with Naylor and takes this shot, and it's almost just like smacked directly at the keeper. I see you putting your hands on your head and rubbing your face. Was that your same reaction when you saw this happen?
Completely. I don't even think I reacted as badly as I am now remembering it, because I was just like, "Wait, what happened? Was there a glitch? Like, what am I seeing right now?" Because you don't miss that shot. For
Oh,
Lindsey Horan, for Mallory Pugh, for anyone, Lisa Roman, like, you don't miss that shot, and you could see it all over Lindsey Horan's face as well. She was like,
yeah.
what the heck just happened? It was literally delivered to her a present in the box right in front of goal, and it's hit right back at the New Zealand goalkeeper, and a great save by Neely, right, to in order to get her foot out there. That ball needs to be like hit to the corners, kept it low, and so much work by the front line at that point. I think you just touched on that a little bit, like what we saw from Swanson, Morgan, and Purse to start this game, I liked. And their movement off the ball, they didn't have a lot of touches, right? They didn't create that many chances.
Yeah.
Fox creating the one, and then this one coming later throughout that first half, about halfway through. But there was like really good movement off the ball. There was checking back for it. I agree with you. I think there were moments when Purse looked like she was trying to do everything herself, which we saw a lot with Purse last year at Gotham.
Yeah.
She's been put in that role before, and so she knew kind of how to respond to it, what to do. But they weren't getting the ball to themselves, right? That was the
Yeah.
issue. There were so many disjointed moments between the different positional lines of the United States in that first half. And we
Yeah.
see that frequently in these January camps. These players haven't been playing for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and they're getting back into the swing of things. They're shaking off some cobwebs, and not that they're not training throughout their off season every single day, but it's not with the same players. It's not 11v11. It's not full sided against other opposition. And it's a different beast going into it. So I liked what we saw, but there was moments where I was like, okay, this is just like sloppy.
Yeah.
Like we're not connecting passes. We're not doing
Yeah.
that. And I think that's the rust you saw from Lindsey Horan not scoring that opening goal in like the 20th minute or so, whatever it was.
I feel you with like the majority of parts what you're saying. For me, I thought the off ball movement was kind of stagnant, and that also sort of contributed to a lot of the disjointing. I think it obviously for me it got better as that first half went on, but I would say for maybe that opening 20 to 30 minutes, there were moments like if you were on the ball, you were like almost on an island at some points.
Yes,
There wasn't a lot, like no one was coming or making the alternate run or getting into
there
pockets of
was
space.
movement. There was off-ball movement, but it wasn't helpful to what the play was developing at that point. Like they weren't on the same page with where the movement was, where the ball was
Yeah.
going to go, personnel like
Yeah.
that.
And you could
Is
see it like maybe like them trying to click some things together as the half was trying to close out. There was one moment we had a moment where we finally got to see Alex Morgan with the ball at her feet, but this happens because Horan again gets the ball out wide. My goodness, it was almost like she was playing as a winger at times. It felt like, but getting Horan receiving this ball in wide areas, and she just sort of has the presence of mind to look up and sees Alex Morgan making a run, and she just boots it. She just boots it up towards into space, and thankfully, it's a good enough pass to where Morgan gets on the end of it. Now Morgan carries this into the box, but it looks like she was opting to make more of a pass in front of goal, potentially to a Swanson making this alternate run, but it just ends up sort of trickling out of play. And I thought that particular sequence was very representative of the team and their
right.
first half.
Yeah, that sequence coming around the 40th minute mark was like putting a little oil on the joints of this team. They were like getting some of the squeaks out. We saw you said it exactly right. Like what we're used to seeing from this team. Yeah, Horan pulled really, really out wide into those spaces and kind of occupying that space. And that's where we saw a lot of Taylor Korniak's touches as well, because the ball was in the flanks for this game for the United States. It's where we saw Emily Fox get all of her touches, right, where we usually do, but she was utilizing the width of the field and those flanks. The shot from Alex Morgan, a little unconventional from her. Was she going for the cross and finding Swanson on the back post? Was she looking for the shot? Hey, we're not sure, but it went all the way through and out. And then there's another moment, a set piece moment just a few minutes later where Mallory Swanson, she ends up taking this set piece and it's beautiful. Horan doesn't get a touch. It looks like it doesn't. It finds the back of the net, but Horan offside from the start of the free kick. Right. So it's called back.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was literally going to ask you about this. Let's close out this first half for everyone joining us today. Do you think it was offside? Should that have been a goal for Swanson off the free kick?
No, it was offside.
All right.
Lindsey Horan.
Some folks wanted to see that other angle. Some folks wanted to see that other angle to have the confirmation of it. But I will say this:
when you look like at the angle that is like down the end line where the offside line would be, you can see that Horan is off. And although Horan doesn't touch it, she's in a position where she's interfering with the play. You're causing the defender to defend differently, to move. Yes. What it's like what happened.
She was stretched. She was trying to get any kind of body part out on that potential free kick. But I will say this: it was really, really good to see Swanson still over these set piece opportunities. I think we're going to continue to see that. We saw that all through 2022. We're going to continue to see that in 2023. I think she's a really real lethal asset on those set piece opportunities for the team, whether they're from the corner or over free kicks. But that was really maybe the last kind of sequence that we got for this team leading into the half. But at this point, it's scoreless. It's 0-0. 0 between these two sides going into half. You have to imagine that if you're New Zealand, if you're the home side, you're going into that second half with a bit of confidence. And then for us, sort of looking at this game and looking for things to analyze, we're wondering what, Lisa? We're wondering about adjustments. And we got some in the second half. And we're going to talk about it right after a quick break.
Sunday. Joe Burrow and the Bengals take on Josh Allen's Bills. A trip to the AFC Championship is on the line.
All right, we're back. Hello, if you're joining us live in this second half of our episode, shout out to everyone in the chat. All right, everybody, now take everything that we just said in the first half and just throw it out the window, just yeet it off the roof. Whereas we're going to talk about this second half that brought all the goals and all the excitement. We got an immediate second half substitution. It wasn't just any substitution. We saw 4 players come into this second half. For those of you who were not watching, or maybe if you want to be reminded, watching on HBO Max, I thought it was cool that they had the very quick halftime interview. Midge Purse saying, yeah, we got to do better in this second half. We're probably going to get a little bit of a talking to. Got to have more urgency. And sure enough, that was the case in the second half. We saw multiple players coming on in. Crystal Dunn getting a full 45 minutes. Sofia Huerta coming on in for her. Trinity Rodman getting into the game. And I think that's where we need to focus on a little bit in terms of players who had an impact for this team for the second half. When you looked at these 4 players coming into the game, was there anyone that you were looking at and saying, like, this is the player that we need and that's who's going to make the difference in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I loved these subs coming in. We saw Alana Cook, Sofia Huerta, Andy Sullivan, and then my game changer, Trinity Rodman. Yeah. Hands down, this is a player that I wanted to see come in and make a difference. We know what Rodman can do. We know the spaces she can occupy, and reflecting on that first half, the United States was finding the most success when they were in the wide areas of the field, when they had the ball in the width and they were sending those crosses in. That's where we saw a near goal from Midge Purse in that first half that went off the back post. That's where we saw Alex Morgan get in behind the back line. That's where we saw the set piece coming in from Emily Fox's first half opportunity coming in from the wide areas. And that's where Trinity Rodman thrives, in those wide spaces. So I think that the game called for Rodman, and the fact that we got to see her at the 45-minute mark was fantastic. I think that when you look at these other subs, right, Alana Cook, Sofia Huerta, Cook in for Gurma, and Huerta in for Dunn. I mean, Dunn coming out, that was a minute management and getting Huerta some time. So then we saw, because of that, we saw Emily Fox switch back to the left side of the field and Sofia Huerta stay on that right side where she traditionally is. But that was more like minute management. I think that we could have seen Dunn a little bit longer. It was nothing that Dunn did. It was nothing that Huerta did. It was more just like, okay, we got to switch this up. And I think similarly for an Alana Cook and Naomi Gurma, it's trying to find that center back pairing and who works really well alongside a Becky Sauerbrunn in that back line in front of Alyssa Nair. And so it's a like for like switch there in that position. And then, I mean, Sullivan and Korniak, clearly he's trying to decide which one of them can occupy that 6 role better and differently. But Trinity Rodman for me was the super sub that needed to happen. And I was thrilled to see her name and her face pop up there.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think it's pretty apparent that maybe some of these were planned, whether it was at the center back position or for Dunn, who's working her way back into being a fully 90-minute fit type of player. But I do wonder if maybe, that defensive mid role was also something that was a planned sub. Maybe they gave Korniak a certain amount of task and assignment for that first half, and they wanted to switch things out if they didn't sort of see things coming to fruition. So perhaps that was something that was planned. And I don't know if Trinity Rodman coming in for Midge Purse was something that was necessarily planned, just because I thought that Purse had a decent first half. But maybe they were just trying to get some different looks into into wide areas. Because again, there was some space there for this team to utilize. They just weren't able to capitalize it within that first half. But it takes all but what, 2 minutes for Rodman to make an impact in this game. You're looking at a Mal Swanson who gets on the end of this ball and just whips it into the box. And we're talking again another point blank opportunity. Rodman gets ahead on it, but misses the target. But we're talking maybe around the 48th minute or so. It doesn't take very long for her to get a player. And I love that energy kept going, because you have just in this sequence, just a few minutes later, they flip the script. You have Rodman to Swanson, this time on the opposite side, Rodman controlling the ball on the right side, getting the ball into the box, and Mal Swanson heading it away. First goal for Mal Swanson, maybe not for Mel Pugh, but you love to see it. USA go up 1-0 in the 52nd minute.
Yes, Mallory Swanson, her 26th goal. Swanson's first, but Mallory 26th goal, and the assist from Rodman. I think that partnership that we saw immediately develop, as you said, as soon as the second half started. Rodman getting opportunities, Mallory Swanson, finding different spaces and occupying them, whipping those balls in. That's the electricity and the spark that was missing throughout the first half. The disjointedness that we saw in the first 40 minutes was shaken away by the cobwebs in the second half. It's almost like, as Midge Purse said, heading into the half, hey, we're going to get a talking to. Perhaps the talking to was, what are you guys doing? Have fun, play soccer, move off the ball, like do everything that basically like the basics of soccer. That's what they were missing. It looked so stiff and congested during the first half. And I think that you have to look a little bit at the competition too. Like this New Zealand side, we talked about them a little bit in our preview. This was 8 uncapped players on this starting lineup for New Zealand, 5 of them collegiate players still in the United States. This was a really young group in front of a sold-out, record-breaking crowd in Wellington. They had a lot to prove. And heading into the halftime at 0-0, I think New Zealand is pretty pleased with themselves about being able to hold the United States scoreless for 45 minutes, limit their opportunities, limit their shots on goal. And that was something that shouldn't be happening. And that's why you play these games. That's why you test the United States, because they can't go into a World Cup game and start a first half like that. You're not going to be able to climb your way back into a game like they were able to do. And although it didn't take long in the second half, they were getting chances in 3 minutes in, and they get their first goal at the 52nd minute. And then they get 2 more in the span of 10 minutes. But that's not how it's going to work in 4 months' time when you are playing in New Zealand again at that same stadium again against the Netherlands in the second round group stage game. It's just not going to work. So there was a lot of questions posed for this team, but the fact that they were able to get on the board in the 52nd minute, and it was very characteristic of the United States, the way it unfolded, that is a huge bright spot.
It was entirely too stagnant in that first half, despite the small spurts or the small moments that we saw. But I love that one of the literal adjustments in this game was just like, hey, try to get the ball to Rose Lavelle as much as possible and see what happens. Get the ball to your playmaker is definitely an adjustment. And it just sort of felt like once they got that breakthrough goal, you could kind of tell that the floodgates opened a little bit. Right. And now they were cooking, because we see that goal in the 52nd minute. We see Alex Morgan have the go-ahead goal for this team right around the 59th minute, hour mark or so. And this goal, my God, this back heel flick. I'm like rubbing my eye. It was so good. This just casual, like the way that Roosevelt just made this look so casual. Just this very chill back heel flick pass to Alex Morgan on a run into the box. And then Morgan, being selfish and saying, you know what, I can actually take these shots from angles. I've done them my entire career. She gets the shot off on an angle, connects far post, and now the team is up to 2-0. It's one of those goals where it's just like, yes, this is what we're about.
It's what Alex Morgan had the opportunity to do in the first half when she ends up potentially crossing it to Swanson on the back post. She's just got to finish that. And that's what we see around the hour mark from Morgan. I agree that the cheeky back heel from Rose Lavelle to Alex is classic Rose Lavelle. I think Rose Lavelle had a tremendous game the entire time she was on the pitch. First half, although disjointed, although there were moments of bad soccer and uncertainty about what was happening on the pitch, I think Rose still played well in that first half, and we saw her continue to come to life as the floodgates opened in the second half. She really found her rhythm, and those are the pockets that you want Rose Lavelle in. You want her with 3 defenders on her back to goal, and the ability to understand where the gaps is, where the holes are, and the players she's surrounded by, specifically Alex Morgan in this situation, knowing that she's going to make this run, even if it's a little off her, she's going to try to get there and she's going to look to finish it. And that's exactly what happened for Rose Lavelle, right? 60 minutes we got to see from her. And I think a really good 60 minutes from Rose Lavelle. It's consistency from Lavelle that I'm loving.
Well, she gets this assist on this go ahead goal by Morgan, and it's right around that hour mark, and we're talking about substitutions coming in here and making an impact, and we got to see more players come into this game and continue this quick succession of attack for the team. We got to see Ashley Sanchez sub in immediately after that goal by Alex Morgan, and we're talking about players where they just need minutes to make an impact, where we saw Rodman connecting with Swanson right out of the gate of the second half. The same case for an Ashley Sanchez in this game, also connecting with Mallory Swanson just 2 minutes after touching grass into this game.
Beautiful.
Mallory
That's what you want.
makes it 3-0.
That's what you need. That's the point of a substitute, that you don't have 15 minutes to get into the game. You don't have time to get touches, to understand what the opposition's doing, to find the spaces. That's what you should have been doing the first 60 minutes of the game. And that's exactly what Rodman was doing throughout the first half. So she could step on the pitch and make an impact. And we saw the exact same thing from Ashley Sanchez stepping on in the 60th minute for Rose Lavelle, and she gets an assist 2 minutes later. As you said, that is the impact that we need to be seeing from players for the United States coming off the bench, hands down. And that ends up being the 3rd goal for the United States. Swanson's 2nd. She ends up getting a brace in those minutes. And before you know it, it's 3-0 for the United States in the span of 10 minutes, thanks to substitutes and thanks to young players, Trinity Rodman and Ashley Sanchez, hands down.
A double for Mallory Pugh in this game. It was her 4th international brace for Swanson. No hat tricks yet, but we'll see if that'll change in 2023. Speaking about all that off the ball movement that we were so hungry for in that first half, seeing this team kind of spark to light in this second half, we also got to see the return of Lynn Williams in this game. So Mallory Pugh makes her exit after recording the 2 goals. And Lynn Williams comes in around the 67th minute. And it was, listen, clap, applause. Almost a year-long absence, around 10 months or so from this team. Lynn Williams out nearly all of 2022 with that hamstring injury which required surgery. That's not an easy surgery to come back from. And yet, here comes Lynn Williams. She's arrived into this game. And at this point, the United States have already unlocked some things. And yet we see this return of Lynn Williams to the game. And I've referred to her as sort of this kind of preferred Andonovsky type of player. This is a player that we've seen prior to her injury be featured in constant camps with the senior women's national team during Andonovsky's time, and really that prototypical player within the system that he's been trying to present, which requires frequent off the ball movement. And you see a player like Lynn Williams and what she can provide for this team in just a matter of minutes. And while you're looking at a player who's likely has to work into, a full 90-minute game, it was great to see her get out there and get some time. I particularly love this one sequence, and it's not her actual goal, but I really love this one sequence where we see Herrera we see Alex Morgan connect with Trinity Rodman out wide. Morgan making the correct decision to get it to the young one and let her get up into space. And Rodman, right? She's got the ability to get down there quickly, but all of a sudden is kind of solo. And I'm like, oh no, like we did all this work to get Trinity Rodman into space out wide, and there's no help. And as soon as I think this thought, a wild Lynn Williams appears, and I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. Isn't it wonderful to have support in the channels? And it's Lynn Williams, and it ends up paying off in the end because these two connect for a goal. Trinity Rodman in a different sequence sends a ball in, and Lynn Williams showing off those hops, even though it was a very, very difficult injury that she came back from. It looking good, able to get the height on this one and head a 4th goal away for the women's national team.
Lynn Williams scores this 7 minutes after stepping onto the pitch. It's the second assist of the night for Trinity Rodman after she subbed on at the half. I think that with Vlatko Malinovsky and with this team, you have to be so proud of the subs and what they were able to do, because the role of a substitute is to come in and to change the game. And you're exactly right. The combination play between Rodman and Williams, it started on a throw-in, the sequence for this 4th goal, and Rodman being so comfortable under pressure, being so comfortable in the flanks and alone, isolated. She doesn't need the overlapping run for the help, because she's got the vision to see the multiple options that she has as soon as she receives the ball. And that's what you saw. If you watch it, you can see Rodman kind of playing in her mind, okay, what can I do with this ball? What are the different choices I have, the different options? Oh, look at this beautiful run from Lynn Williams. We're going to find her there. And this is all happening in the matter of seconds, which is what you need from these players playing at the highest level, and what we didn't see in the first half. I'm going to be completely honest. And this was beautiful. I mean, this Williams header, I was so happy for her. You could see the joy on Lynn Williams' face after coming back from an injury to make this camp, to get minutes in this game. 7 minutes after being subbed in, she ends up getting this goal to put the cherry on top for the United States. Lynn Williams was over the moon. Her teammates were over the moon. It was pure joy on the pitch. The team was having fun by that 74th minute, just relaxed and playing the game they love and they know so well. It was beautiful, that moment to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just sort of capped off the night for me and this team, and obviously a first half that they wanted to forget and that they made up for in the second half. But good things, I think, for this team in that second half to build off in their second game against New Zealand. And that's what's next for this team. They're going to head down over to Auckland now and face New Zealand in the second of this 2-game series. Game is going to take place on Friday, January 20th. You can catch the game on HBO Max, obviously, and all other streaming services. Eden Park is where the game is going to take place for this one. We're obviously going to have a preview for everyone as well. We'll chat all about what we would like to see from this team to close out this pair of friendlies against New Zealand. Who's going to get the star? Who's going to come off the bench, et cetera, et cetera. Stay tuned. Thank you all for joining us today, this morning on Attacking Third. We appreciate you always. Download, follow, listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. You can watch us too. Subscribe to us at youtube.com/Attacking Third. Like, follow, subscribe, and leave us some comments because we love to hear from you. We'll be back with so much more. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.